magical ones. Welcome to the Fairy Stitch vlog. I'm Fairy, and today we are going to be talking some fairyology, which I know has been a while since I've done one. But for those of you who are brand new to the channel, welcome. And you might not know what goes on around here, so real quick, brief synopsis of the channel. Basically, what I talk about is fairies and fairyology, but there's a lot of fairycraft magic. There's cats, there's some gardening, there's baking, there's art, there's craft, there's knitting, sometimes some books or poetry. But generally, it's usually related to fairies or animals in some way. And so I am a certified fairyologist. I'm a certified cat trainer, certified dog trainer. I am an artist of over 25 years. I am a knitting artist and instructor. And I also do craft. I do art, as I said. And I'm a certified art therapeutic art life coach, and I have a few little certificates in healing with herbs and working with candles. So yes, and I am a fairy witch. So there's a lot to cover. There's a lot to talk about usually. So you never know what you're going to get or when you're going to get it. So I do recommend that you go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you aren't a subscriber already. And if you are one, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope you'll tell your friends. Spread the word. The algorithm here is not friendly to my channel for some reason. I don't know why. But word of mouth would definitely help me. So I welcome all of you. So today what we're going to talk about is we're understanding more about the fae and fairies. Now, first of all, they don't like being called fairies. They prefer the good people or good neighbor or even little people. But I always love the word fairy. But to them, it's an insult. So you can never actually say that to them. But I guess for this podcast, I'm going to refer to them that way, but you should always call them what they prefer. They'll never tell you their name because that is a very precious, powerful charm or talisman, is to give away a name. So the fae aren't going to tell you their names. You might understand what type of fairy they are, mermaid, naiad, the dragonfly fairy, salamanders, all these things. Anyway, today we're going to talk a little bit about physiology of the fairies. This sometimes comes up with questions from people because obviously it's something you're going to think about. I mean, we think about our health, our bodies, our functions. And so, you do think, well, what about the fae? What do they do? So this is a quick rundown on some of the more pertinent questions. And first one being, do fairies sleep? Well, generally in a lot of folklore, it's mentioned. It is mentioned. It's not something you hear about all the time. It's not in everything, but yeah, it does happen. They do fall asleep. There's, I believe, a rhyme. I think there's a rhyme, or there is a poem, or it's just a folklore tale, and I honestly forget the title of it. But the fairy was one of the dangerous types, and he was actually trying to kill the woman involved, and she had to defend herself. And the only way she could do it, because, the fae are reputed to be, faster, smarter. They can use glamours. They can shapeshift. They can do all these things that we as humans cannot do. So obviously she needed to outsmart him in some way. And in this particular story, the woman does do it. She manages to lull him to sleep and then kills him. But it was in defense, it was in her own defense. But, I can't remember the story name of that one, but yes. And there's other tales, too, where they, they'll party all night, and they love to be in the fairy ring, especially at midnight on a full moon night. But, generally every night they do it. That's their gathering time. That's their playtime, their downtime from working all day long. So, yeah, they'll, congregate in the fairy ring and they'll go at it all night long. And then in the morning, maybe they're going to sleep in for a bit. So they have to rest somehow. But they probably don't need as much sleep as we do. They probably don't sleep as often as we do. But they do sleep. Another question is, do they eat? And yes, that is yes. Many folklore tales do talk about like the fairy banquets. There's fairy foods, things that they offer us if we were to visit with them or whatever, which you shouldn't ever eat. Don't ever eat. I think the only time that you can, because it would be considered a major insult if you didn't, is if like a fairy king or queen invited you to have something. You have to at least try it. You gotta, gotta take it and because it would be an insult to them. But generally, you don't want to eat any fairy food, especially if you're visiting, because they may not ever let you go after that. And there's an old animated movie called Fairies, which I was lucky to find still. It's still on YouTube. You could hunt it down. You can find it. And I believe it was just called Fairies, Faeries, which is how I prefer to spell it myself for a podcast and everything else. But the movie has the voice actresses and actors. Kate Winslet is in it. And, the one who plays the prince. I want to say it's Dermot Mulroney. I think. That, it was either him or it was Rupert Everett, but one of them. But I know Kate Winslet definitely does. She plays the main character, one of the main characters. So anyway, that animated movie, they actually do use that idea when the little boy and the little girl actually find the fairy ring around the great big fairy tree, and he goes in and the sister has to follow him. They bring him back out. He is already eating. He's been eating all these wonderful snacks, and he's like, this is so fantastic and so wonderful. And she's like, we need to go. And he's like, oh, I'm having fun. And so then the fairies are like, well, he can't leave. He's eaten our food, so he has to stay here. There's no going home. There's no going back. They're like, you can go because you haven't eaten. You can leave. But the older sister, she wasn't going to leave her younger brother. So that's how the story starts to roll from that movie. But again, there's a movie right there that uses this idea. So yeah, the fairies do eat. Now, what do they eat? You might wonder. They eat a lot of, there's fruit, there's vegetables. It may not be the same stuff that we eat, although you can give them, because I've talked in previous videos, when you're doing the fairy offering at the fairy ring, you can give them some carrots, you can give them bread, you can give them milk, which is one thing they like, fresh water. They do like beer. So answers the other question, what do they drink? Generally, it's water, beer, and milk. But it is said that they like sweets, they like chocolate, they like baked goods. But as far as what do they eat most of the time in their own realm, would be more like flotsam and jetsam, forest floor findings, whatever that might be. So that could be nuts, that could be different grasses maybe, definitely herbs of some sort. But they do have, they do eat, like I say, fruit and vegetables, certain things like that. And, though they do eat meat, some of them. It depends on the type of fairy, depends on the realm or the region they live in as well. What can they get to? What do they prefer? What do they hunt, if anything? So some would hunt animals. Some are meat eaters. Some are just vegetation eaters. Other ones like the red caps and the bogarts. Now, those are nasty types. You don't want to invite them in. You don't want to have them around you because we are actually on their menu. Definitely meat eaters. But anyway, yes, yeah, they will target us if they can. But if they can't, then yes, they're going to go after something else, another meat, and whatever. So, I mean, it depends on the fairy. It depends on where they live. And, but generally, that's what they eat and drink. But like I say, when we're giving them offerings, you can give them an apple and banana and carrots, celery, strawberries, cherries, some chocolate, raw chocolate preferably. They do like sweet stuff, so if you wanted to bake something, but the less fancy, the better. Because even though those items, and I've talked about this before, but even if those items, if you lay them out on a little platter and stick them out at the fairy ring, which I've done numerous times, I try to give them an offering every single full moon cycle. So what you can do is you can give them something sweet, but generally they like basic stuff. The more natural, the more organic, the better. But even then, when you set the stuff out for them to partake of during the night before, when you go back out there the next day, because you need to discard the stuff right away, is the whole thing, the apple might still look intact. The carrots might look unnibbled. All this sort of stuff. But remember, the fairies can be big, they can be very small. But also, too, they can just take the essence of the food. They take the spirit of it, and they can drain the ingredients out of it somehow. It's magic, and they take the ingredients out. And then that way they've got the nutrients that they want and need, but they still leave the whole thing. So to us, it looks like they haven't even tried it, and you might feel disheartened, especially your children. If your children are doing this for the first couple of times and they're like, "Mommy, you didn't take anything," you have to explain to them, well, yes, they did. We just can't see it. We just can't see what they took. But they did, and they enjoyed it, and that continues to keep the children interested and engaged and want to, do this. So again, yeah. So that is what, fairies eat and drink. Now talk about other things. First of all, for adults only, yes, fairies have sex. They do with each other, and they can with us if they chose or if we chose. Sometimes we don't get a choice. So you have to be careful. Again, it's all about who you invite in. But yes, so they do have intercourse, and it's mainly for reproduction, although there are a lot of tales. This subject does get covered a lot in a lot of tales. Folklore novels continue to talk about this, with fairies mating with each other, mating with us. It's because, they want to, it's for reproduction, but there are a lot of tales too where it's used as trickery. It's fun and games for them. It's pleasurable for them. This kind of thing. So, I mean, yeah, they do. They do. And novels, they clamp onto this idea, and modern writers, and they love to do the romance story, which is fine. I mean, I like a good romance myself, so yeah, I mean, it happens. It happens. In folklore, it doesn't usually end up well, but it is talked about a lot. So yeah, that subject is covered frequently. And so there's a lot of folklore tales. And again, like I say, it's usually, the fairies are looking to increase their population. Maybe the fairy mothers are having children that are born sickly. That's where the changelings come in. I know I've talked about that before, I believe, on another episode. But again, the changeling stories start showing up because they switch babies. They have a baby who's very ill, they can't take care of it or don't know how to take care of it, so they either bring it to a human woman, a human midwife, or a human nurse, or just a mother who has a child already, and the fairy mother will either leave the baby and hope, and the mother will take care of it and get it feeling healthy, and then the fairy mother will come back and claim it again. So that could be a verbal arrangement, that could be just trickery, it could be glamour, it could be switching it for the changeling, which is what happens a lot with the folklore. So basically, when it comes down to the changeling bit, again, it's usually the mother has, the fairy mother has a child who's sick. She can't fix it, can't heal it, can't cure it. Brings it to a human family, and she'll see, oh, this lady's got an infant. Aw, isn't she cute? She's healthy, she's sweet. I'll take her. So the fairy mother takes the human child, switches it, and puts a changeling in its place. And the changeling looks a lot like the baby that the mother had, but if you start learning about changelings and their behaviors, she'll be able to test it and figure out, what happens. Anyway, that's a whole nother video just there, which I think I may have already done, but at some point, that's the idea where the fairy mother will switch and take the human child. Sometimes she'll return them, rarely, but sometimes. Other times, the human mother has to catch on and figure out a way to either make a deal with the fairies to get them switched back, or generally, if she can figure out that the baby she's looking at in the bassinet in her home is not hers anymore, that's actually a changeling. If she can figure that out, prove it, call it out, it will take off, and it'll go back to fairyland. But that does not necessarily mean that that mother's going to get her actual child back. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, again, so the fairies do need to reproduce. They need to have children. And sometimes there is a problem and they can't, or it doesn't work out, or they're ill. So they will find other means to do this. And other times it's just either the fairy mother will find a nice human man she likes and will mate with him and either take the children with her, or if he decides he work out a deal and she stays with him, with the family, then she kind of becomes human for a while, that kind of thing. Mermaids do the same kind of thing, being a fairy being. You hear a lot of folklore tales and stuff about that, where the human man thinks she's so beautiful and so gorgeous, wants to keep her, wants to marry her. He has to trick her or trap her. And once she, loses the fins, then she has to adjust to the new life. But if she ever gets the chance to get back in the water, she's going to take off, whether she's got kids or not. That, her nature is to be in the water, be with the mer people. She's going to go home. The Selkies, the Irish Selkies are tales a lot of that. So anyway, my point is that there is a lot of stories and tales about this kind of subject for these different reasons. Okay, so the next thing would be, do fairies age? Is it true that they're immortal, or do they age? Do they actually die? Okay, we're going to do all that at once. Now, a lot of folklore and a lot of tales say fairies are immortal. Meaning, yes, they can live forever. But there are tales of some fairies being said to be aged, older. The beards and wrinkled and slow to walk, in their world by their comparison. Okay, so basically, it depends on the type of fairy. Okay, Generally, we consider the fairies to be immortal. They don't die. Can they get injured? Yes. Can they be miserable because of an injury for a while? Yes. So they do experience pain. They can experience injury. They can experience sickness. But it's not like it happens all the time. It doesn't happen as frequently as it does in the human world. It happens less, but it does happen. And they will get into scraps. They will get into fights. They do have battles. And if the fairies are injured or wounded, well, it happens. And of course, they're going to feel it. Some of them might be able to rejuvenate and heal, and maybe other ones won't. Excuse me. But again, generally, it depends on the type of fairy. So there might be one that will age and will show its age, but it'll still be faster and smarter, and it'll be ancient in our, as far as we're concerned. We'll still think, my gosh, he might look old, but he's moving fast. He can do this, he can do that. He can still shapeshift and all that. And that's another thing, too. It could be just a glamour. Those fairy beings, if you're seeing them, they could use a glamour or shapeshift into an older being so you don't recognize them. So you won't see them as what they really are. You'll just be more like, oh, it's an older gentleman. Okay, I'm a senior. But if they can do that, then they've disguised themselves from you. So that's one way they might do it. But again, generally, they can live forever. Trying to think what else. Obviously, again, to injuries they can sustain is usually in battles. It's usually from some kind of form of violence. And like I say, sometimes they can heal, sometimes they may not. They might just suffer for a while. Now, there's another type of fairy that it's said through the folklore that what happens is that they, as they age, they shrink. Their physical size actually shrinks down to a point where they might even be the size of an ant. And then when they die, they just disappear. But again, see, that is one type of fairy. That's not all of the fae. That's just one type. So, yeah, it basically just depends on type of fairy. But again, they are very much like us. They're just on a different plane. They look different. And they're usually smarter, faster, quicker. And they can travel through fairy doors and entryways. And they can come through portals, all that sort of stuff. And sometimes during the day, the time of day can actually give them a better access. Sometimes it's an actual day of the year. It might be, obviously Samhain is a big one, that kind of thing. And I always kind of, in May is the official fairy month. I always consider that month to be more of a time to celebrate them and, to be aware of them more. And then, of course, June 24th is actually the official fairy day of the year. And so, again, I celebrate them, and I kind of figure that's the day they might be able to come in more because you're being more open to them, at that point. But anyway, so my point is that the fairies are just on a different level, different plane, and they do seem to be a lot like us as far as needs and wants and requirements, and then how they can react and how they physically look and physically behave. But they're not us, and we have to always remember they're not us, and we have to be very careful about how we approach them, if at all, and how to honor them without offending them, this kind of stuff. So again, today is all about the physiology, and I know I'm getting off of the subject. So it basically just, like I say, comes down to type of fairy and what they want us to see, how we perceive them, and that kind of stuff. And yes, there is a lot of folklore throughout the centuries, a lot in Ireland, Scotland, European folklore that talks about this kind of thing, that these subjects are mentioned. So at least we have that to kind of base our information on. But again, it's all about what the fairies want us to see and want us to know. And they can trick us. They do that a lot. Leprechauns are renowned for it. They trick us all the time if they can. And sometimes it's just for play. Other times it's because they know they can. And other times it's because they just don't want to be seen. They don't want to be recognized. They don't want us in their faces or dealing with this at that point. So they're going to use what they can for self-preservation. So, yeah. So, again, they're a lot like us. And those questions come up a lot. And so I hope that was informative. I hope you found that was worth the time of watching. So please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please like the video if you would. That would be great. It greatly would help me. More views, the better. And more subscribers, the better. And again, you saw my little cards at the beginning. If you'd like to donate to us, we have a PayPal, we have Ko-fi.com, and I'm very much on Facebook. There's a lot of, I have 3 or 4 pages at least on Facebook, so you can check out our Fairy Stitch blog page. And also I am advertising some of my classes, which are now available. You can buy some versions on my Ko-fi.com page. There is some of my classes on there that you can purchase so that we can watch them online. You just download them. But these are more in-person classes, so if you're interested in doing that and you live in this area, great. Please check out our Facebook page. The events are coming up. I do publicize them. And with summer hours going to have to be implemented with the heat, please take note of that. So, anyway, thank you so very much for watching this Fairyology video. I hope you enjoy. There's more to come, and we hope to see you in the next one. So, in the meantime, please have a very good day, and we hope to see you again very soon.